Let's start with a quick reality check. What if growing actually didn't mean struggling and trying to reach some goals that you've set for yourself, but actually finding the key to get out of the prison that you have created yourself all these years? What if that was true? What would that mean for you? And what would it mean for your life? If it was true, does it mean that you have been on the right path up until now, or that maybe there's some things that you would have need to change? Hello and welcome to the Artful Maestro Podcast. I'm your host, Nenad Leonart, and I'm very happy that you are here with me today as classical musicians in the 21st century. Now, we are facing supreme challenges that musicians have not been facing before in the past generations, and nobody out there really has the solution. So a lot of this that's going on is trial and error, and we are trying to find a new way, trying to find the path into a new future where all of us want classical music still to exist, still to be cherished by people, still to be listened to. Just yesterday, I talked to a person who is an audio technician. He has been doing 3D audio for a very, very long time, before it even got popular with all the spatial audio by Apple and the Dolby Surround and whatnot, like Dolby Atmos, not Surround. And what he told me is that his motto is very similar to what my motto is, and we kind of bonded over that. His one was, let's try and make classical music sound so beautiful that when people listen to it, they are completely amazed and want to listen more. And I really, really love that. So he's teaching that to his students. And I think this is what we all want, to strive for excellence, to create something extraordinary, and to go from there building on this beautiful cultural heritage that we actually have as humans. Here's where the Artful Maestro Podcast comes in. That's one of the reasons that I created it and that I'm recording this. It's for you, so you can benefit as a classical musician to take the newest technologies, the best techniques, different approaches to several problems that we all are facing, so you can find your unique way and your unique path to start your career in a sustainable way. Today, we will be talking how to grow. And we've started out with this question: what if the way to grow isn't what we initially were taught that it is? To have some external goals and just run after them and try to get all that stuff and try to become something and then just more and more and more. What if there's actually a different side to approach growth? And that is also been around, like the knowledge. This is nothing new. It's been around for thousands of years, but people have kind of forgotten it. Especially today in the modern day and age, where we are so focused on the external things that we oftentimes forget to take care about our internal being. Before we dive into today's episode, let me mention our main sponsor, which is the Artful Shop. It's a place where you can go to get the best gifts for yourself as a musician and your musician friends. There are several different kinds of merchandise, like t-shirts, like blankets, mugs, small cases for your AirPods, stuff like that. So if you want to make a meaningful gift to a musician friend of yours, go and check out the Artful shop. And if you put in at the checkout Artful5 as a discount code, you'll get an additional 5% off of your whole order. Go and check out Artful Shop now. Okay, so in today's episode, where we want to find out how to grow, we are going to look at how actually inner blocks work, the prison that we kind of put in place for ourselves so we are not actually able to grow. Then we're going to take a look at why we have blind spots, just like these areas in our life and in our personality where we don't really look at, and why we have those. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the comfort zone and what comfort zone has to do with the beautiful state of flow that we are pretty familiar with when we are playing music, especially on stage. Then we are also going to talk about the parts theory. And this is something that you can get pretty excited about because it's something that you, I'm guessing, haven't heard of yet, but you know very well from your personal experience how you have experienced life so far. After we've covered these points, we are also going to go into what you can do and how you can do that to actually implement a few simple methods in your life that will make it better in a sustainable way. Okay, so let's dive right into how these inner blocks work. Why are they there? Because everybody that I know, they have some kind of things that are preventing them from doing something, going somewhere, reaching something that they want. And you can have two perspectives. Let's say a person has a goal and they want to reach that goal. They're trying to reach it, and for some reason, they're not able to. You could go and say, well, this has two different reasons. One is that they do not have the skill set or the ability to reach that goal. So they kind of are missing the knowledge or missing the tools to be able to go there. Or you can have the premise and say, you know what? They maybe have the knowledge and maybe have the tools, but there's just still something inside of them that is preventing them from using this knowledge and using these tools and going and get that. If you look at yourself and your life, how it was up until now, probably you will notice that in most cases where you are facing challenges, in most cases where you think, I should have this under control, like this part of my life. Let's say it's doing sports on a regular basis, or maybe it's eating healthy, or maybe it's sleeping enough. All these things that we actually know we should be doing, but we aren't doing. Well, there you have it. There are certain things that we already know that we should do and that would benefit us, but we don't do them. And this, for me, gives me actually the premise that our mind is an amazing thing. And I truly believe that we can be whatever we want to be. All we got to do that is to find like the manual instructions, how to use the machinery that is given to us. And with the machinery, I mean like our bodies, our psyche, how our brain works, how our body works, all the different small types of cycles that we have, like hormonal cycles, like sleep cycles, like all these rhythms that are going on, all these mechanisms like motivation, like inspiration, and so on. And when we truly understand these, then we have like a roadmap how our machinery works. And then we also have the possibility to go and use all our knowledge and all our skills in the way that we want to. So there's like certain rules that have to be accepted and they have to be followed so that we can reach whatever goal that we set for ourselves. Again, I believe that we can do whatever we want. And I also believe that we cannot do it in any way that we want, but there are certain methods that we can respect or not. Now, from me saying this, you have probably understood that these inner blocks aren't maybe necessarily inner blocks or stuff holding you back, but just that you know you should be doing something, but you don't know how to maybe do it so you get the result that you want. Okay? You could say that. And on the other hand, if you look at yourself, you have been maybe trying to do it over and over and over again. Like I hear this, for example, with sports or movement from people all the time. Like I should be moving more. I should go out running or go to the gym or whatever. And then they don't do it. So what they need to do is to find out why they're not doing it, like what's preventing them from doing it, and then try to minimize these preventions. Inner blocks aren't just preventions because of us randomly not following the mechanism of our body or our rhythms or like the rules of playing the game of life. But inner blocks are oftentimes also put in place by our psyche to protect us from something. If you, let's say, wanted to grow, you know somewhere in your mind it's going to go like, okay, but if I grow, then that means I'm going to change and my life is going to change and all the things around me are going to change. And I don't necessarily want those things to change. Maybe change isn't great. So there's like an inner block preventing you from getting that change, which is ultimately preventing you from growing. And you can feel like, oh my God, I'm stuck. I'm trying to do this, but it isn't working. But the block is actually trying to keep you safe from something that is maybe afraid that could happen if you got that thing. It could be afraid that, I don't know, life is going to be too overwhelming. How will you handle this? How will you be able to, let's say if it was just like exploding your concert career, like how are you going to handle all these concerts? How are you going to handle all the traveling, all the different kind of repertoire that you need to prepare? Like, are the resources there? And maybe a part of you goes like, I'm too scared. I'd rather not. And so it just pulls you back and keeps you down. And the interesting thing about this, pulling back and keeping you down, we come to the next point, which is our blind spots. So when this happens, usually it covers its own tracks. Like when this one thing kind of goes and takes over, preventing you from achieving what you said was your goal, it kind of cleans up its mess after, so you don't see what happened. You don't know what happened, and you can't actually look behind it. This is how our psyche works. We have all these protection mechanisms put in place to protect us from certain things that we don't want to know, that we don't want to believe in. There have been different studies around this, and I've been reading in a book where it was really interesting to know and understand that most people, I'm not saying all, but most people, they have small tolerance for lying or for cheating or for, it's like not outright, lying, but like small little white lies. This is the jokes with the hunter and the fisherman, when they caught like a fish this big, and then when they tell it the first time, it's a little bit bigger, and then the next time it's a little bit bigger, and a little bit bigger, and when they tell the story for the 100th time, the fish is like ginormous. And that's a very normal human mechanism that we have, that apparently there's like a tolerance of up to 5 or 10% that we have, that we say, oh, it's still fine. Let's say if I say something and it's up to 10% accurate, it's okay. It's morally justified because it's not really lying, right? It's almost the same thing that I'm saying. And I've been trying to catch myself when I do that, and I've noticed I do it all the time. When I want to say something that puts me, let's say, in a better light with other people, or just even to tell a better story, we would kind of polish up these little details. However, from a scientific standpoint, these are not truthful, okay? These are not correct. Like the amount of, let's say, money that you've earned, depending on who asks, sometimes you say a little bit more and sometimes you say a little bit less, right? If you want to impress them or if you don't want them to get jealous, for example. So that's also one of the examples that you can see this happening. Why this is happening and why we still feel it's morally justifiable, we don't really know. Like, one of the explanations is that we still want to sleep at night and think that we are good people. Oftentimes you will also hear very crazy things that, like, even criminals and murderers and people who did like really bad things, they don't think of themselves as bad people, because they've morally justified what they did so they can actually sleep at night quietly, right? And this is one of the things that is very interesting to know. As a human being, we kind of don't want to look at certain things because we want to think of ourselves as good people. And that is why we have these cover-up mechanisms and blind spots, so that sometimes when something is holding you back, you just dust it off without you noticing, like, this is happening. Put it under the rug, and nobody talks about that anymore. And it's fine, it's fine. And we can tell different stories to ourselves why this or that has happened. And we feel good. We don't feel guilty. We don't feel bad about that. We don't feel shame. We don't feel any of those things. And even sometimes if we do feel guilty or shame or whatever, most people will get into a state where they will somehow kind of maybe shift the story or shift the blame so it's put on somebody else or something else, so they are not blamed themselves. Again, not everyone, but many people will do that kind of thing. And this is also where we have projections coming in. Like, projection is when you don't acknowledge your own responsibility of something, and let's say your own part in that, and you project that onto other people. For example, there's also personality traits. You will see this a lot with people that will say, oh, I am not the bad one, they're the bad one. But you have both sides doing like really horrible things. You can see that in wars, or you can see that with people fighting. Like, both are in the trenches and really just throwing at each other with stuff. But when you talk to them, they will always be in the right, and the other person is the bad one, and you should talk to them to resolve the conflict. And that's called projection, like not wanting to see your own actions, and your own responsibility, how it led to this situation, but actually trying to push it off and projecting it onto somebody else. This allows us to stay in the comfort zone. So we're at the next point, talking about the comfort zone. When we have these inner blocks that are preventing us from going somewhere, and then we cover those up because we don't see how they're preventing us, we are able to stay inside of our comfort zone. And this means no growth, because growth is actually happening at the edge of the comfort zone. It's so important, I'm going to repeat it again. Growth is actually happening at the edge of the comfort zone. And a very funny thing is as well that the state of flow, that the state of this amazing feeling where you feel fully engaged but not overwhelmed, where all of your resources are being used in a positive way. That's oftentimes for musicians when they play on stage, when you have the audience there, when everything's going on at the same time, then you are actually in the state of flow, which is you getting the best out of yourself. And if you look at it, it's the same thing. It's also being at the edge of the comfort zone. So understanding that if you want to feel this great feeling of flow, you cannot stay in your comfort. And this is just, not just in the concert business, but also in different other parts of life. For example, in working on your marketing, for example, in putting yourself out there, for example, in networking and creating meaningful connections with people. All these parts of a career are equally important in you getting what you need and looking how growth actually happens at the edge of the comfort zone. It's on the inner edge. So like it's still you being inside of your comfort zone, but just at the edge, right? It's not going a little bit outside. This is something that it took me a long while to understand. This was actually from a singing teacher that told me, how do you want to grow and build up on your skills if you are trying to work on something that is outside of yourself? So it has no connection to the inner part. And that made completely sense for me. So to actually be able to, let's say, comfortably grow, you want to be at the edge, but you want to be like on the slightly inner side of the edge. So you still have the safety where you can let go inside of your own skills and not put yourself out there too much. Okay, so it's always this balancing of what's the challenge, how much is the challenge, and how much is the comfort. Evolutionary speaking, we sometimes have this push towards seeking more of an adventure or more of a challenge. Apparently, that's even some genetic components that are going into this, how much a person is willing to try out new things, to grow, and so on. But I believe that we all have the capacity to do so if we just put ourselves to this task. So just by understanding that the closer you move to the edge of where you're comfortable, the more you will be able to grow, but also the more you will feel some kind of feelings that are very much connected to fear. Because you are, again, looking outside of the borders of what is acceptable to you, and everything outside of that seems to be kind of scary. This is also evolutionary settled, and it's a very good mechanism because you don't want to go into places that are unsafe for you, with all kinds of dangers and so on. Now, in our modern world, if we look at this mechanism, it's not really useful. It is kind of evolutionary, but it is not really something that needs to protect our life from anything. Like on stage, there's no danger that a tiger is going to jump out and eat you alive. Like on most stages, there isn't this danger. I don't know if you have to perform in a jungle or something, how it works out there. But it's a very old mechanism that now is kind of seeping into our modern lives and usually preventing us from doing whatever we feel are supposed to do. And to understand this a little bit better, let's talk about the last part, which is the parts theory. Parts theory is a psychological theory that they've put in place not too long ago, but it actually talks about how our personality isn't just made of like one personality, there's just one of you, but there's actually very many different personalities inside of us that are active at different times. Okay, so if I'm in one situation, I maybe have like one predominant personality, but if I put myself in another environment or in another situation, I will be having a different kind of part of me active, different kind of personality, and it's going to be running the show with all the other ones in the background. And I don't know, there's like a few dozens or maybe a few hundreds of them. Who knows? But there's like just like many different parts of you, many different parts of me, many different parts of everybody. And you probably can also tell this when talking to a friend, especially when they're going through something emotional. Let's say you have an emotional talk with them that goes on for a long time. You've probably spoken to several different parts of that person. One part that was in anger, and then it kind of moves maybe towards sadness, and that's like an almost completely different person that's talking there. And then it maybe moves into hope, maybe it moves into courage, maybe it moves into neutrality. So all the different emotions also kind of have, let's say, a different personality going on, because also when we are feeling a certain emotion, it kind of hijacks our brain, and then inside of the brain, because of the chemistry happening, we are using different circuits. So it's literally like somebody else inside. The material is all the same, like all the circuits are there, but just certain are not being used anymore, and certain others are being used at that moment. That is also why, for example, you never want to make decisions that are important for your life if you are in a moment that is very negative, that is very critical. If you are, triggered by something, if you're feeling bad, you don't want to make life-altering decisions then, because you are not seeing objectively. You're seeing it through the lens of a personality or of like a brain program that's running the show right then and there. Okay, so this is a little bit of a different view at the parts theory. But what you want to understand is there's so many different parts inside of us, so many different personalities, and they all have different motivations. They all have different goals, and they all have different hidden agendas. And this is also something where hidden payoffs come into place. You remember how we talked about certain things being outside of our awareness because it just kind of cleans up and creates this blind spot where we don't see it? Well, let's say you have a part of you that is really not interested in you becoming successful in a certain area. And then this part does its job, and then it's out of your awareness. But now you know that actually there is a part that is doing all that. So you can go and connect with this part and go and ask it, hey, What's going on? What are you getting out of this deal? And that's called the hidden payoff. The payoff is what it's getting. So you say, okay, my goal is to, I don't know, get this amount of money by the end of the year. But then there's a part of you that doesn't want that for some reason. And then you can ask, like, what's the payoff? And the payoff could maybe be, well, I don't deserve the money. And then you have a very different kind of information. Okay, so I don't deserve. Let's see what's behind there. Why don't I deserve it? And then you can start communicating with the part that was previously hidden because you didn't want to look at it. You just wanted to look at your goal and kind of shoot straight at it, but it's not working out. Okay. And there's many different types of exactly things like these where you can get in touch with the part and ask it, what are you getting out of this? What is your payoff? And just start writing those down, because again, your brain, if you don't write those down, it's just kind of try to tape over it, like take a bunch of paint and just pretend that never happens. And this happens to all of us. This is a mechanism that is protecting us, that is keeping us sane, that we don't have to look at all the awful stuff out there. So just keeping us sane. However, if you really want to grow, you want to identify what's holding you back. And if you want to identify what's holding you back, you want to actually be able to look at these things and to keep them in your mind and to see, what can I do to alter this situation? So we are going to go and look how you want to be solving. So once that you have identified these hidden payoffs and you've identified the part that it kind of belongs to, you can start negotiating with this part. And you can see, okay, so you need this and this and this, and it's often something of an emotional nature. So how can I make sure that I provide these things for you and I still can also go and get my goal? It's about doing a compromise. And maybe you'll find out that you just need to take a different road. Maybe you'll find out that this wasn't a big deal at all, but that it was just something that needed a little bit of an attention and a little bit of reassurance that everything is going to be okay. Again, you need to be providing safety for yourself so you still feel like you're inside of the comfort zone to be growing, and that you feel that you have all the tools you need and all the support from yourself and from all the parts in you to actually face the fear once you are at the edge of the comfort zone, at the edge of the unknown. So what you have to do is to learn to feel the fear and do it anyway. And actually enjoy that. Feeling the fear and doing it anyway, that means courage. Because courage would not be able to exist without fear. So it's actually a good thing. And usually when you know that you feel fear, you'll also know, okay, this is potential for me to grow. This is something that I can grow with. Also treat it like building a muscle. This is one thing that you want to remember. Treat it like building a muscle. Don't overexert yourself. Don't try to do too much at once. Don't try to put yourself out there and experience like a bunch of fear and get traumatized and never do that again. You don't want to do that. You want to do like small training sections where you dose it in the right way for you, just like exercising a muscle. Exert it a little bit, and then go to a resting place. Go back into your comfort zone and enjoy the work that you've done. And if you keep on doing that, your area of influence is actually going to grow, just like a muscle would grow, and you will grow as well. Don't do the mistake of not exercising, and don't do the mistake of overexerting yourself. Very simple, just like you would do with your body. And a last remark before we start closing this episode: whenever you do encounter a problem in the outer world, like whenever you feel like, okay, something's not working, I have an issue with this person, or I'm having like a fight over there, or there's like some conflict coming up, or they're just being like a really, really, really stupid person, you can go back, just pedal back a little bit, and then say, what about this is going on inside of me? Like, what if it's not about the outer world? It's not about the outer goals, but what if this is some kind of weird dynamic mechanism going on inside of me? And look inside and try to figure out what you will find. Usually there will be some kind of hidden payoff where you can say, oh, they're stupid anyway, I'm the much better person. Or I'm the bigger person, so I let them have it. Or a lot of many different other mechanisms that we have just so we can, you guess that's sleep at night. Okay, try to be really honest and try to stop with the projection so it's not always the others, but you can actually start taking responsibility for your actions and for your emotions. So that's my closing remark. Actually, self-reflection is the key. All these tools that you have been learning, that we have been talking about in this episode, it's something that is leading to self-reflection. And it's something that you want to be doing on a regular basis just to see, am I on the right path? Am I going to that direction where I really want to go? What we've talked about was how these inner blocks work and how we actually put them just to stay safe. And that we have these blind spots that cover up these inner blocks so that we don't have to think about them, that we don't notice that they're happening, because maybe we could get like angry at them or try to prevent them from preventing ourselves, you know? So what that means is that we would stay inside of our comfort zone, but growth actually happens at the edge, and flow and all these other great emotions, they actually happen at the edge of the comfort zone. So to understand this, you need to understand that you have different parts of yourself and that you want to get in touch with these different parts. And there's always going to be at least one, sometimes it's 2 or 3 or even more, that are holding you back for a reason. So you want to talk about the hidden payoff that is going on, that they're getting out of holding you back. So what you can do is identify those payoffs and try to find a compromise within yourself, like having inner self-talk. How can we make this work for everyone? You will want to learn to feel the fear and do it anyway. And you want to treat it like building a muscle. Not too much, but also not too little. Self-reflection is the one thing that will help you get out of this mess, and it will actually help you thrive and grow in the direction that you know is right for you. This is what Artful Maestro is about. This is about getting to the next level, to creating a new generation of musicians who are connected in this world, who are connected with their fans and with each other, and that we are helping each other grow and just create beautiful things together. If that is something that you want to do as well, make sure to go and join the Artful Maestro Inner Circle. This is a community that you can access for free, where many classical musicians go to share their thoughts, their opinions, their ideas, and how they are working on themselves, what their experiences are with it, what the challenges are, and they can grow together as a community. They can be together as a community. Like for me, it would be the greatest if this community started to exist without me, that I am not even needed there, but people are actually so supportive and so there for each other that this becomes a movement and they are coexisting into a better future every day. I will also ask you for feedback. If you like this podcast, what you like about it, what you have taken out from it, if there have been some life lessons that you've took out of it, maybe some aha moments, or something that you just especially resonated with. Maybe also some things that you don't think are applicable, or something that you didn't like. Either way, do drop me a comment or send me an email. I'll read through all of these. I don't always have the time to answer, but I sure always read through all of those. And having said all that, thanks for tuning in. Have a great time and see you in the next episode.